On the 17th of January 1977, Gary Gilmore, a double murderer, was executed by firing squad in the state of Utah at his own insistence. It was the outcome of a successful legal battle over what he called the right to die, and brought an end to a 10-year moratorium on the death penalty in the United States. The case was, of course, highly publicized and provided Norman Mailer with a subject for a very successful book, The Executioner's Song. 9 months earlier, Gilmore, aged 35, had been released on parole from the federal penitentiary in Marion, Illinois, after serving over 11 years. A violent and dangerous man, he had, in fact, spent more than half of his life in detention, and during his last term, he and a friend had beaten and knifed a fellow convict so badly that he almost died. He had, it seems, no intention of making good. He drank heavily and began stealing from stores, the thefts being the result of habit rather than need. The two murders were committed in July 1976, robbery being the motive in each case. The first murder was that of Max Jensen, a law student working at a service station at Orem, Utah. Gilmore had held him up, forced him into the men's room, and shot him in the back of the head while he lay on the floor. The second, which took place the following evening, was that of Ben Bushnell, the manager of the City Center Motel in Provo, a few miles away. The victim was shot dead in the same way. In each case, Gilmore stole about $125 in cash. On the latter occasion, he was seen by the victim's wife and a guest at the motel. Afterwards, in disposing of the gun, he accidentally shot himself in the hand. The wound was noticed at the nearby garage when he went to collect his truck, which had been left for servicing, and was later reported to the police. Gilmore was arrested without difficulty while trying to leave the state by road. His determination to avoid commutation of sentence was due not to remorse, but to a fear of further long-term imprisonment. He told his brother, who intended to apply for a stay of execution on his behalf, "I've spent too much time in jail. I don't have anything left in me." At one point, he persuaded a girl with whom he was in love with to smuggle drugs into him, so that they could both commit suicide at a prearranged time. But the attempt failed, and the girl was removed to a mental hospital for treatment. As a result of his demand to be executed, Gilmore became a celebrity, selling the rights to his life story for about $50,000. On the night before his death, he gave a farewell party inside the prison for his relatives and friends. Early the following morning, he instructed his lawyers to appeal against a last-minute stay of execution. They did so, and the order was set aside. The execution was carried out in a local cannery to which Gilmore had been taken by van. He was strapped down in an old office chair with a dirty mattress behind the backboard to prevent ricochets. A light was shone onto him, while everyone else was in semi-darkness. When a hood had been pulled over his face, the members of the firing squad took aim from behind a screen, training their guns on a white ring pinned above his heart.
In later years, he would look back on this period of his life and come to two conclusions: that he wasn't determined enough to be a successful thief, and that he had quit caring about anything and was completely adrift. In 1958, he was picked up for statutory rape. His father helped to get the charges dropped, but Gary was sentenced to a year on an old car theft charge and sent to the Oregon State Correctional Institution in Salem, Oregon. In midnight,
with, who had known him, felt that he was volatile and would have easily exploded if anybody had pushed him, so they didn't. They didn't push him to do his homework or anything else. They just, let him sit in his desk and do what he wanted to do, and which is what he did.
Done to them, and perhaps in some ways that was the part of my father that also loved Gary and wanted to protect him.
No matter what he did, if he stole something, he'd go to court and he says, "My boy didn't do it. There's no way you can prove he did it," and usually he got away with it.
That dream of every prison administrator: he's going to break all the rules. He is going to defy authority. He will assault people. He will use drugs, drink alcohol, anything he can get his hands on. And he was truly an antisocial personality.
I think he found a kind of solace in solitary. For all that he did to be the big, hard convict, I think solitary was actually sort of his comfort. He found himself removed from all that threat and all that sort of ongoing horror.
Like an old sailor out there on the sea that's been out there way too long, and he hears the sirens call of the mermaid and whatever out there on the ocean. And I think when Gary got back to society again, and when he saw this girl, Nicole, it was like a siren call to him. It was coaxing him in closer and closer. But if you've ever heard any sea stories, you know that it's right by the reef.
Shuffling, slurring, inept, drooling. It was a nightmare. But from Bessie's point of view, I think it was more than a nightmare. Yeah.
He told me about being paralyzed, and not even being able to unzip his pants to take a pee, not being able to move.